Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about repotting Paphiopedilum orchids, or slipper orchids. Now, it seems like I just did a video on this, which I did, and I wanted to give you an update on the one we repotted last time. This is a warm-growing Paphiopedilum, and you can see now we have some bloom spikes. There's one there, and there's one over there. So yeah. We have two blooms on this guy now, so that's kind of cool. I'll make sure to update you as the blooms develop. This one is an alba form, so it's going to be green and white tones on it. This is, as I say, is a warm grower, and it was repotted a couple videos ago. I like the clear pots because you can see the roots in there. Makes it very easy to tell that everything is healthy. There's another new root that is coming around there. I don't know if you can see that right under my finger. So anyways, update on that one. Doing very well. Blooming exactly as it should. There's even a few extra fans that I'm sure are going to produce blooms this year as well. So we'll have at least two, maybe 3 or 4 blooms on this little slipper orchid this year. Now off to the one that we're going to do today. This one is a completely different Paphiopedilum. This is a Paph insigne. Now I've had this plant for years. I bought it as a little compot. The plants were all very, very tiny, so it's grown quite well. I've actually made a few divisions of it. As you can see, there's multiple fans in the pot, and some of the leaves are getting quite big on it. I was hoping for some blooms this year, but so far I don't see any, which is kind of disappointing. I've never had it bloom on me, but it's a beautiful plant when it does bloom. So I was kind of holding off repotting it to see if it was going to bloom, because this one's actually growing outside still with the cymbidiums. Unlike the other one that we just looked at that's in spike, this is a cold growing Paphiopedilum, so it grows very different than the first one that we looked at. Very, very different. So the reason I'm going to repot this one today though, and the reason that I like clear pots, I don't know if you can see in here, right at my fingertips, we have moldy media. So it looks like that's probably some sphagnum moss that's broken down and gone moldy. Right under my fingertip here is, you can see those white, that is some moldy bark. So this guy, being he grows outside, he likes to be always wet, he's going to be more likely to get moldy media than if he was inside like a Cattleya and was allowed to dry out. So perfect reason why we like clear pots. I can see that there is some problems in the pot, which is why we're going to tackle this guy today. So what I'm going to do is use some of the Ravenvision supplies that he so kindly gave me, and depending on when we get it unpotted, I might put it in the same size pot that it's already in. Oops, we just tipped over a watering can. Might put it in the same size pot that it's already in, or we might put it in one size bigger pot. Both of them are clear, so it's going to lead to fewer problems later. This one has some extra slits in it, but this one has plenty of air holes in the bottom as well. But I really like the clear pots, so we're going to go with that. I'm going to use some of his mix here, which is the fine mix for paphs, it says on it, so I'm going to use some of that. I'm also going to supplement with a little bit of sponge rock. Now, I've never used a sponge rock before, and all of these supplies you can get at Ravenvision. Ravenvision.ca is a Canadian orchid supply company, and if you look, we have a promo code. I'll put that in the comments below, and that will save you some money if you need any orchid supplies too. So anyways, I'm going to throw some sponge rock in there. Sponge rock's going to keep it nice and airy, and being it's not so organic, it's not necessarily going to break down nearly as fast. And because it is a bigger paph, I'm going to also throw in a little bit of medium fir bark into the fine mix just to open it up a little bit. Now with this paph, this is one that also likes to grow in alkaline soil. I don't know if you can see on the top there, I've laid a few chunks of calcium carbonate just to make sure the pH in this is a little bit higher. Kind of a crude way of doing things. So Ravenvision has this Paph Magic, which is a supplement to do just that. Provides slow release calcium and silica for strong shining leaves and increased vigor. So I'm going to try that in with the paphs this time as well. Yeah, so we'll give that a try. I might just mix some of it right in with the media and then sprinkle some more on top. Anyways, now that you know what I'm going to be using, let's get started on actually repotting this Paphiopedilum. Okay, so I have some ingredients laid out before me. I forgot to mention that we're going to use a little bit of moss as well, so I'm just going to cut that up. I like to add a little bit of moss in there just to retain a little bit more moisture. We're using pots that have lots of ventilation, and these are moisture loving plants, so we want to make sure that they do stay moist. Moss is not something you have to use, and depending on how often you water, you may want to use a little of it or a lot of it. So I'm going to chop that up. This was the Chilean moss that I'm still using at this point. So we have our sponge rock, our medium bark, our pre-packaged small mix, and some of this. And I think I will blend it together and see what it looks like. I'm excited to use the sponge rock. I haven't used it before. So it's going to be great for air in there, keeping the mix light and fluffy. And there we go. So that looks like a good paph mix to me, at least for this. So I will move this tray aside, and well, we can have a look at the roots on this one and see how it actually looks. So there's the tag, paph insigne. Someday I hope to actually bloom this guy. The first year or so I was growing it wrong. I was growing it too warm. So then I introduced it to a lot more sun. This is a paph that I put out in direct sun in the summertime usually. And I also give it a good winter chill. So far, still no blooms though, but I'm hoping it's getting to a blooming size now. So it looks like for the most part the mix wasn't that broken down. You can tell if a mix is broken down because the bark is going to look darker. Let me get that in focus for us. Sorry about that. So this is old bark, this is new bark, so you can see the difference there. And it's not totally broken down, but you can see some of it. Here was the problem, that we had some moldy bits of bark. Not wanting to focus on it. There we go. So you can see the mold that's growing on that. And actually, if we get a shot from underneath the pot, now you can see all the little bits of mold. So it wasn't too bad. It was just on the outside edge. The interior looks good, but you know what? It was due for a repot anyways. Now you want to be careful with paph roots, because if you break a paph root, they, unlike Phalaenopsis, the paph root doesn't start to grow again. So I don't like to twist them and contort them too much. As I'm going, I'm feeling for any kind of mushy dead roots, which so far so good. I don't feel any. I'm still not sure if we're going to put it in the same size pot that we had it in, or if we're going to move it to one size bigger. Another interesting thing here, if you look here, you can see where this paph has got a little bit of purple markings. The media, you want to make sure the media is covered to just about halfway up that purple. If you were to plant this too low, say the media was down here, the paph would not grow any new roots. If you were to plant it too high, say the media was up here, you would actually rot the fan. So with a paph, it's pretty exact where you need the media to be. Now it looks like when I repotted this the first time, I used pretty much the same mix. I had some bark and there's some perlite in there, and it's a really healthy root structure. The roots are sticky. They're sticking to all the bark, so I'm not too worried about getting it all out. I just want to do my best. So I'll just continue to knead and shake that out. I'm going to adjust the camera up a little bit. So we're just going to continue to knead and get the bark out a little bit at a time. Looking for dead roots. There's a little dead root. Not many though. It looks pretty good. There's a moldy piece of bark there, so I'll get that out. It's funny, it's just the very bottom area, just what was in contact with the air underneath the pot, so that's good. Oh, there's a tiny little bit. So that's about as good as I'm going to do. Just give a bit of a shake there. The mix didn't look too bad, but it's good to repot it anyways. Now I think I'm going to try for one size bigger. No, you know what? That's just going to be too deep. See how much space there is underneath the roots? I don't need all that space. So we are going to go with a new version of exactly what it came out of, I think, and just pot it back into that. So let's get rid of the old media so we don't mix it up. You never want to use old media. There's the fresh media. And I'm not going to add any of this quite yet, because once I add it I'll have a very alkaline mix, and I don't want to use an alkaline mix for all my orchids, just for this particular one right now. A lot of the paphs will appreciate this paph magic though, for sure. So what I'm going to start with is, okay, we got the pot there. I'm going to turn the plant upside down and almost reverse fill it. So I'm just going to put the media back into the roots just like so. Don't know if you can see that. It's just falling right into place in between the roots. I'm almost planting this thing upside down at this point. And pot goes on. As we put it on, we just want to twist a little bit. Twisting is just going to make sure all the roots get into place. So what I did there was I made sure that the root ball itself had a good amount of media in the middle of it, and that way it wasn't just a hollow spot of air. Now I'm going to open this Paph Magic up here. I'm just opening it off camera. There it is. So again, these supplies, they all came from Ravenvision.ca. It's a Canadian orchid supply company, and if you use the promo code in the link below, it'll save you some money as well. So I'm just going to do that for now. Throw it in there. There we go. So I threw a bit in there. Now I always use dry media because it fills in the cracks so much easier than wet, sticky media. I'll give it a good water right after. I know that's not the way some people do it, but it's a way that works well for me. So that's the way I'm going to do it. And this is just going to be a fabulous airy mix. That's going to be great. Just holding it in your hand, it's so light and airy. I'll definitely be using the sponge rock often. I'll have to buy some more of that. So we'll continue to fill up around. Now, remember I said it is a bit of an exact science for where you want it to be potted. So the purple area is just down there that we talked about earlier. It's not potted too shallow, it's not potted too deep, it's just right. And there we go. I'm going to continue to fill that in, pat her down. Now, I'm going to go off camera and water this when the video is done, but I'm not going to quite water it yet. But there's the finished product. Another thing to make sure is you shake it all down a little bit. Once it's watered, you'll be able to add a bit more media as well. So I'll just do this. But all in all, the path looked really well. There was one dead root, many healthy roots, and yeah, that should be good now for a few years. I'll reassess it this time next year, see how it's doing, see if it needs a bigger pot, see if any of the media is going bad. One way to tell if media is going bad is you can actually just stick your nose in it and smell it. And if it smells really earthy, is the only way to describe it, like fresh dirt, it's actually starting to decay and break down, and you should probably change it out. If the media doesn't have a smell, then you're usually good to go. So, anyways, that is my freshly potted Paph insigne. Hopefully this year it will bloom for me. I'm still going to throw it back outside. This guy is going to be good down right until in the mid-40s, maybe lower. I'll bring it in when I bring in the Cymbidiums if I catch a frost warning on the news forecast. Other than that, it's going to stay outside in the brightest possible light that it can get, and hopefully we get some blooms this year. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe to my channel, and as always, thanks for watching.